Hi, I'm Mia, but I want to be Emma. And that's a wig. And it's not my clothes. It's my sister's clothes. And I'm dating her boyfriend. You're gonna say that's crazy? Well, listen. Emma and I are twins. But we've always been different. Now at 14, I have a short black hair and glasses. And Emma has long blonde hair and a cute tattoo on her shoulder that all the guys she's flirted with like. Emma is the soul of company, fun, and open-minded, while I am the opposite, all by myself, always wearing headphones and black clothes. 2 weeks ago, our parents divorced and decided to separate us. Dad and Emma went to live in another state because Dad was offered a good job there. And I stayed with my mother. But I was happy that I stayed here because I could see Tristan. Who's that, you ask? He's the coolest guy I've ever hung out with, and I fell in love with him at first sight. But Emma is dating him. Yeah, it's very confusing. We both met Tristan at the school party. He had just transferred to our school. He was in his senior year. And while I was blushing, not knowing how to hold a conversation with this handsome guy, my more adventurous sister quickly hooked up with him. And they started dating. Tristan started coming over to our house a lot, and my parents were thrilled with him. He could tell jokes, make conversations about anything, and was just a great guy. And I was going crazy about him, watching him hold Emma tenderly. I wanted to be in her shoes. I was jealous when Tristan kissed my sister goodbye on the lips. And I wanted to feel his kiss on mine. This guy had become an obsession of mine. I also started to avoid Emma. Even started to hate her for dating someone I unrequitedly love. The news of my parents' divorce came out of the blue. They decided everything for us, deciding to separate us. Emma sobbed and packed her things. She knew that she wouldn't be able to see Tristan for the next 6 months, until she graduated from high school. And then they decided to go to the same university. But that's for later. In the meantime, my rival is leaving. And I realized that this is my chance. Now I can get Tristan's attention. I bought a wig first. And armed with my sister's photo, I started doing makeup like her. I took off my ugly glasses and put on lenses, got a couple of bright sweaters and skirts from Emma's closet, and tried them on. Yeah, you couldn't tell us apart now. I also bought another phone, and it texted Tristan on it. I told him that my previous phone had been stolen, so he shouldn't call or text there anymore. And if he gets messages or calls from there, he shouldn't believe it. They just wanted to fool him into believing that it's me. To make him believe my story, I sent him my new photo as Emma, and it worked. We started texting each other all night long. He turned out to be a very romantic guy. He wrote how he missed me and how he wanted to see me. I mean, not me, but Emma. I began to lead a double life. At school, I was the quiet, inconspicuous Mia, who was devouring Tristan with her eyes in class. And in the evenings, the cheerful Emma, who texted love messages to Tristan. After 3 days of this relationship, my sister called me, in tears. She told me that Tristan had stopped texting her and had blocked her number. Emma was aiming to come and find everything out. And that's when I got crafty. I told her that Tristan had turned out to be a traitor and that he was already seeing someone else. Emma was upset, but her pride overcame her feelings. She asked me to tell Tristan that she too had a new boyfriend, and that he was already a student. And she hung up. I was happy. Now I'm standing, looking at myself in the mirror and trying on a wig. I want to fulfill my dream, to be Emma and go on a date with Tristan. There are no other obstacles to it. But I still feel uncomfortable. What if he realizes I'm not Emma? And I lose his trust? But I like him madly. And it's not enough for me to just text each other at night. I've done so much to get him. And now I have to go all the way. What do you think? Would you do that to win a guy? What would you do if you were me? Please write. It's very important to me.
Hey, I'm Lorraine, and I need to share this with you. It's difficult to talk about, but maybe for one of you this story will come in handy. So, I'm from a very rich family. But my parents were always strict with me. They were afraid that money would spoil me. That's why I go to regular school. I'm a rather introverted person, so it's hard to get along with people. I don't have any close friends at school either. I'm kind of on my own. But one day, something happened that changed everything. I recently turned 16, and my parents decided that this was a great way for me to build relationships with guys from school. They threw a huge party at our house. The theme of the party was kept a strict secret from me, and when on the evening of my birthday I went to my house with a bunch of students from my school, I was surprised no less than everyone else. Unpleasantly. The party was cartoon style. Hello Kitty, unicorns and all. Everything was very nicely decorated, tasteful, and a 9-year-old girl would be overjoyed. Well, I was embarrassed. Guys from school began to make fun of me, and I wanted to sink into the ground. I lowered my eyes, which were already beginning to well up with tears. Leave her alone! Enough jokes here! This is as much of a surprise for her as it is for you. At first I didn't understand that these words were spoken in my defense, but suddenly everyone was silent. And looking up, I saw a tall, handsome guy who was staring at me intently. Oh, I knew him. It was Ethan. He recently came to our school, but his intelligence and charm helped him immediately become a leader. He came up to me, took my hand, and whispered softly, "Turn on the music. Let's have fun. After all, today's your birthday." And the party was a success, and that was the beginning of my relationship with Ethan. He confessed to me that he also came from a wealthy family, and that his parents hold the same views as mine. Ethan and I had so much in common, and I didn't even believe it was true. We dated for 2 weeks and everything was great. Until one day, on break, I saw him kissing another girl. I felt awful. I ran home and wrote to him that he was a traitor since he kissed another girl from school, and even in front of everyone. All evening, I ignored his messages and calls. The next day, which was Saturday, I was awakened by a persistent ringing at the door. My parents were still asleep. I went downstairs, opened the door, and saw Ethan. "I don't want to see you!" I screamed and tried to close the door. But Ethan was stronger than me, and I couldn't close the door. He held it tightly from the other side. "Let me explain everything to you," he asked. "I won't leave until you let me in." I reluctantly opened the door and looked at him questioningly. Like, how can you explain everything to me? Then Ethan moved a little away from the door, and another one appeared near him. "Ethan?" I stood bewildered. "Meet my brother Tony." The guy who was looking at me looked exactly like Ethan. Only his hair was a little lighter. I understood everything. It was him I saw with the girl. "Why didn't you tell me right away that you have a twin?" I exploded. Ethan laughed and hugged me. Tony was visually similar to Ethan, but in character they were nothing alike. Ethan was an explosive, cheerful guy, and Tony, on the contrary, was very thoughtful and rational. He had an impeccable sense of humor and was always a great listener. So, in addition to a gorgeous guy, I also had a best friend. His twin brother. We used to hang out a lot, and sometimes when Ethan was at the gym, I hung out with Tony. Everything was wonderful. Until prom. I dreamed of how I would come to the ball in a luxurious dress with Ethan holding my hand. We'd dance all night but in the evening, the day before the ball, there was a knock on the door and I ran to open it. On the threshold stood Tony. Tony? Did something happen? I gestured for him to come in. Tony was pale and visibly nervous. We sat down on the sofa in the living room. I need to tell you something, Lori. Or rather, confess. Tony, you're scaring me. Tomorrow's the prom and I want you to come to the prom with me, Lori. He grabbed my hands and whispered, I have long wanted to confess to you. I fell in love with you, and Ethan, Tony, what are you doing here? My mother stood on the threshold and heard everything. Seeing her made Tony even more nervous. You'd better go, Tony. Mom looked at him coldly, and a little louder added, Now! After Tony left, my mother advised me not to communicate with him anymore, and focus on preparing for the prom. I trusted my mother, so I decided to cut off all contact with Tony. At the ball, Ethan and I looked luxurious. He was in a black tailcoat, I was in an evening gown. I was so happy. Everyone was dancing and having fun. Ethan and I were walking down the alley in the park where the ball was being held. Ethan ran for drinks while I waited for him near the tree. And then suddenly, from behind the bushes appeared Tony. He was in normal jeans and a t-shirt, and there was a huge bruise under his eye. Tony, what are you doing here? What is this bruise from? Shut up, Lori. I don't have much time. Here is his cell phone. I stole it. Look, and you'll understand everything. It's unlocked. Tony handed me the cell phone and disappeared into the bushes. It was Ethan's phone. I recognized it. I looked in the phone, and suddenly he received a message from my mother. In the message, my mother asked how we were doing and if everything was going according to plan. According to plan? I shuddered. I saw that my mother often corresponded with Ethan. She asked how I was doing. I kept scrolling through the messages, and in one of the first, addressed to Ethan, my mother offered him $10,000 to start dating me. What? It became difficult for me to breathe. I reread the message again. Where are you? I lost you. It was Ethan who came in with the drinks. When he saw the phone in my hands, his face changed. Where did you get my phone? Was it him? Is he here? Oh, he'll get another bruise under his eye. Ethan was overfilled with anger. I'd never seen him like this, but I immediately decided to clarify everything. So you agreed to date me for money? Ethan swallowed and looked at me, pleadingly. Lori, it's not like that. I mean, yeah, your mother offered me money to date you and take you to prom. How could you, Ethan? I fell in love with you. My face was covered in tears. I couldn't speak. Ethan tried to hug me. Me too, Lori. You are a beautiful girl. And the more I got to know you, the more I realized that I really wanted to be with you. But your mom... Not another word, Ethan. I'm tired of this lie. I pushed Ethan and ran away. Catching a taxi, I drove home, ran into my room, and closed the door. No persuasion from my parents to open the door worked. I didn't want to see my mother at all. I couldn't believe her anymore. I didn't sleep all night and thought about what to do next. I finished school, College documents have been submitted. I had a fun and carefree summer ahead of me with Ethan, but now, early in the morning while everyone was sleeping, I quietly packed my bags with things. I decided that I needed to pause and move away from them all. I quietly went downstairs, opened the door, and head-on collided with Tony. "What are you doing here this early?" "I've been sitting here all night, Lori. I'm really embarrassed. For Ethan. He's my brother and I don't feel comfortable that he wanted to do this to you. Money is not the main thing in our life, although without it, of course, it is sometimes difficult. Ethan and I are from a simple family, and the amount offered by your mother looked cosmic. But when I got to know you, I realized that this is not the way to treat you. You're a fantastic girl, Lori, and I fell in love with you." "You can't do that to anyone, Tony. It doesn't matter if it's a fantastic girl or the most ordinary girl. Every person must be respected." I looked at him and said coldly, "I don't believe you, and I don't trust Ethan. So leave and never try to talk to me again." I went back home, closing the door tightly behind me, and decided that I would not run away from it. They are the ones who should run away and feel ashamed. I didn't talk to my mother for a week after that. She asked for forgiveness, explained that she wanted to help me. After all, she saw that I was a loner at school. And in the end, we made up. I never saw Ethan again. Tony once, briefly. Then they said that they moved to another city, and after a couple months in college, I met Oliver. And now we're dating. The history of our acquaintance is very interesting. Someday, I might tell you. But for now, I'm looking forward to your comments. What would you do in my place? Would you trust Ethan or Tony? I'm very interested in your opinion, and I can't wait to read it.